Let me just point a couple things. The presentations that we heard today discussing the science from the lunar surface are pretty much very exciting in bringing a new era in the research on the moon. They cover not only passive technologies such as corner cube reflectors for lunar laser ranging, but also active. Active meaning we need some power, we need some dust mitigation, we need some communication. That would include optical transceivers, optical telescopes, radio telescopes, and all the other payloads that will be deployed on the moon. The challenge is that this is all wonderful ideas, and some of them already funded, such as the Eclipse delivery of corner cube reflectors. But we need more of those reflectors. How do we do that? How do we enable many science applications that will benefit from lunar presence? And that is, this is the pathway towards the decadal process. Because in my experience is that if your science is not mentioned in the decadal, it will be very hard to bring some funding to the topic that are most important for you or your group. So our contribution to the decadal process is critical to help the newborn division within NASA. And so biological and physical sciences to really start addressing unique scientific questions from the moon, and especially from the standpoint of fundamental physics, planetary sciences, astronomy, cosmology, and heliophysics, because this is new, and new opportunities are enabled by the ongoing lunar exploration activities. So, point is, we need to all contribute to the decadal, and so I would like to ask Ulf Israelsson to summarize for us the decadal process, and then maybe we'll spend the remaining time within the session to address the issues. How do we organize and how do we write those white papers to contribute to the process? Ulf, you have your floor.
Yeah, thank you, Slava, for the introduction. Also to the importance of the ongoing decadal survey. It's really critically important that the community does respond and get their voices heard in this process. So next slide, please. You've already heard from Kristen, who is the co-chair of the decadal survey this morning. For those of you who listened in, so that summarized quite a bit about what the layout is for the next couple of years for the decadal review. The survey is meant to come out and be available as a report in early 2023, and it's meant to cover the years, the decade starting in 2023. Critically important to where we are today is the fact that the physical science and biological science research program was moved last year from being previously centered in the Human Exploration Program to now to the Science Mission Directorate. And it's really a great opportunity for growth in the physics area because of the new enhanced focus on really science instead of support to human exploration. The survey will be, the report is expected to come out in early 2023. And as Slav already alluded to, this survey will directly influence the BPS, the Biological Physical Sciences funding allocations starting in 23. So it's really very, very important for the community to respond strongly to this white paper call. The response mechanism is through 5-page white papers. The call was released in June 17th of just last month. There are two call deadlines. The first one is for what's called topical white papers, and these are kind of smaller individual experiment type responses looking at science, theory, technology, experiments, and so forth. There's also a second deadline also for 5-page white papers on December 23rd, and that's what they call research campaigns. And these will be more for dedicated long-term missions, perhaps with a sequence of experiments. So anything costing $100 million or more, likely to fit into that longer the longer deadline. So a couple of points about the decadal. White papers are made public, so that's to be kept in mind by people that submit ideas and inputs. Teaming is strongly encouraged, and it's perfectly okay to include international contributions and collaborators. Next, please. So we have had, the next slide, please. We have had, no, the previous slide, please, Monica. We've already had slide 3, there you go. We have had already a couple of, actually 5 different white paper decadal workshops already, and these are in kind of focus areas that we have an ongoing existing program already. So cold atom physics, for example, which is where we had the cold atom laboratory operating in space, was done in April. We have a program looking at dusty, you know, lunar dust or dusty complex plasmas on the space station, and that was held back in May. We've also had quantum entanglement physics decadal workshop and physics with atom interferometers back in June, and also physics with optical clocks. So they've all been already held with some community members. So this is sort of opening up now for other things like doing physics on the lunar surface, which is what we're doing today. So with a white paper objective, the goal for submitting white papers is to get the decadal committee to send out priority recommendations that include this work. So for this community, you want to see the goal that the decadal recommends that the BPS NASA fund the community aimed towards fundamental physics research on the lunar surface, and that they also fund development of keystone missions for the lunar surface. So that's kind of the ultimate goal that you would like to see, an expanded program and participation on future missions. The white papers do have to focus on science, but they can have many, many flavors like experiments, theory, technology, and missions, and so on. Next slide, please. So that's where we are today. So this is just a lead-in for this discussion, and Slava will be leading the effort to hear from the community. This is largely a self-organized way of doing it. So we want to hear from you. What are some of the important white paper topics that you want to bring to forefront? If there anybody here that is interested in serving as a lead author for some of these concepts, and also if you're willing to contribute to white papers. So keep in mind that anyone can actually submit these things on their own, but there is a strength in having sort of teams come in and show that there's a more of a community effort behind things. So with that, I turn over back to Slava again to get you.
Ulf, thank you very much for summarizing the decadal process.